Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, we are studying the lesson Born in Captivity. In that Born in Captivity, we saw how the human being is captive of various aspects of life, or how each and every aspect of life is a captivity. Captivity means a trap. Captivity means a bondage. Captivity means a trap. Captivity means that which you cannot wriggle yourself out, which you cannot escape from. That is called captivity. And this trap and this captivity can be of two types. One is self-inflicted, other is from the external. So the captivity again is of two. One is self-inflicted, another is from the environment, the outside. Now, the very nature of the environment, the very nature of the external, when we say external means anything, everything other than you is external. So one kind of bondage is self-inflicted by your own self. Another is that which is inflicted by external. For all practical purposes, the external doesn't inflict any bondage. The external exists. As they are, they exist. The external exists. And what is the nature of the external? The law of the external. The nature of the external, the law of the external is opposites. You can never, the moment you create one, you invariably create the opposite. That is the law of the external. The law of the external is you create one, the very fact that you have created that one invariably has given birth to the opposite already. You don't see it, that's all. The very success itself has given birth to the failure. The very love has given birth to hatred. So, the very nature of external is they exist, and they exist by the opposites, and that doesn't create a bondage because that is the nature. Understanding this, you become free from the external. In Vedanta, we move on to say the difficulty is the self-inflicted captivity is the actual problem, not the external one. It is a self-inflicted captivity. And what do we mean by the self-inflicted captivity? The self-inflicted captivity is that which is as you want it to be. Self-inflicted captivity is as you want it to be. So there are two things. One is as it is. Another is as you want it to be. This is what knowledge is all about. One is as it is, another is as you want it to be. Now, as it is can never create a bondage. What you want it to be is what that creates the bondage. And this is self-inflicted. And what are the various types of bondage? We saw that in up to the mind. The last thing is the last thing that we studied last week is the mind. So you see the self-inflicted bondage. So first he says there is a trap, there is a bondage. Second is it is self-inflicted. The third is the cause. That is the next chapter. We are not touching that now. We are trying to understand this chapter and then we'll move on to the third one. When we go to the third one, we are going to see it as the virus of attachment. So there the cause will be discussed. So first is there is a bondage. And wherever there is a bondage, the human being can say there is an external cause and then there is an internal cause. The external cause of bondage is environment, situation, people, all that we have, all that we saw in this chapter. The internal is the mind. In self-inflicted is, now when we talk about captivity, there is that craving, longing to become free also. There is captivity, and then there is the longing to be that, and then there is the longing to be free. The person that you crave to live is the person you will long to run away from. At one point of time, you will crave to be with that person. At another point of time, you will do anything to get away from that person. So craving at one point of time, desperation at another point of time. So the very craving has caused desperation. So in the very craving, the seed for desperation is sown. That's all. So you can never create one without creating the other. You can never create one without creating the other. That's why the world is the pairs of opposites, it is said. Therefore, you cannot. So then what happens? The external is as it is. The internal self-inflicted is how you want it to be. One is as it is, another is what you want it to be. So bondage and suffering and sorrow, misery is nothing but not what it is can never cause sorrow, suffering. As it is, nothing can cause sorrow, suffering. When you want it to be something else, that wanting it to be something else becomes the cause for sorrow and suffering. Okay. How does it manifest? It manifests at various levels. It manifests. The very birth has created the opposite of death, isn't it? The very birth itself has created the opposite of death. Only thing that is not known is what? Only thing that is not known is what? The time of birth. The time of birth is also not known. The time of death is also not known, isn't it? The time of birth is also not known. After you are conceived and all that, only some calculation they can say, and then they will say it will be born between this date and this. So the time of birth is also not known. The time of death is also not known, and yet the moment the birth happens, along with the birth, what has happened? Death has come into existence. Having this knowledge is seeing it as it is, freedom from self-inflicting bondage. So seeing it as it is freedom from self-inflicting bondage. Otherwise, what happens? You create one because of the longing for permanency. The one that you created, you want it to be permanent. There is a longing for permanency. There is a craving for permanency. Since there is a longing, craving for permanency, even if it is not permanent, you want it for a long period of time, isn't it? So the permanency, the longevity is what that is you are craving for. And bondage, self-inflicted bondage is what? Where by nature it is not there, you assume it will be there. Where it is incapable of giving, you assume that it is capable of giving. You assume the sun is capable of giving you. What is assumption? You assume the sun is capable of giving you. You know sun will scorch you. You know sun will burn you. But what do you hope from the sun? What do you want from the sun? S-U-N, S-O-N. S-U-N. What do you hope from the sun? A sun that doesn't scorch you. A sun that doesn't burn you. A sun that doesn't have. A sun that can be different from what it is. So what is captivity now? Your hope, your expectation, your effort to make the sun different from what it is captivity. This is what we understand it as captivity. Distinct and different from that is a simple recognition. What is the recognition? It is dvandvas. It is opposites. And opposite means you see only one. The fact that you are seeing one, you should understand the exact opposite is coexisting. That's what we saw when we introduced Rama. Rama said this. Every union is going to end with the separation. No, he said. All union is going to end with the separation. Not necessarily a divorce or anything. All union will definitely end in separation. What brings about separation? Kala, time brings about the separation. That's why another name for the Lord of Death, Yama, is Kala. Yama is called the Kala, no? Kala means time. So anything that is, so when you are seeing one, you are supposed to understand the other is hidden in it. The seed for the opposite is sown. The moment you understand the seed for the opposite to sown, you are free from the captivity. Why? Because you will not go and bind yourself. You will not go and bind yourself. But the mind will say, No, no, no. It is not like that. A new person, a new environment, a new thing will change everything. It is not like that. A new person, a new environment, a new situation will change everything. As long as we are in the earth only, there is a problem. Go to Mars and start living, everything, all problems will get sorted out. So what is captivity here? Captivity is a trap, a chain. Captivity is a trap, a chain, a bondage that you go and bind yourself. Lastly, since it is self-inflicted, it can be only self-removed. That's how we conclude. If you are convinced that it is self-inflicted, then only you will have the motivation that it can be self-removed. As long as you are convinced that something other is the cause for captivity, you will never be impressed. You will never be impressed. You will never be inspired. You will never be inspired to get out of it. Why? Because the moment you are convinced that captivity is self-inflicted bondage, self-effort becomes the solution. If bondage is inflicted by the external, you got to wait for the external to change. Either you have to wait for the external to change, or you got to move away, run away, try and change something. But in and through all this, what continues? In and through all this, the bondage continues. The self-inflicted bondage continues. The reason for bondage is what we are going to study, the virus of attachment. So what are the various types of bondage that we saw? Wealth, longevity, ego, physical body, domestic prison, environmental pressure, youth, herd instinct, vasanas, old age, result of action, religion, what all possible things that is all the available list is given and said, you are a prison, you are captive in all these. You are a captive. So born in captivity means the very birth itself is a drop. Birth is not a very pleasant thing. The very birth itself is a drop. The drop from perfection to imperfection. Therefore, everything associated with birth has to be in. Everything that is associated with birth is bondage, captivity. Lastly, what we were seeing is the mind. We were discussing the captivity in relation to the mind. Mind is likes and dislikes. What is the trap of the mind? Likes and dislikes. The ability to align your likes and dislikes with the reality versus you having a likes and you having a like or dislike opposite of reality. If you align your likes and dislikes in relation to the reality, there is no problem. What is aligning likes and dislikes with the reality? Like he says, summer will be hot, winter will be cold. If you have aligned your likes and dislikes in relation to the reality, there is no captivity, there is no bondage. So likes and dislikes is that which is contrasting, conflicting to the reality. So first trap of the mind is likes and dislikes. The second thing of the mind is attachment and possessiveness. The first thing is likes and dislikes. Like means having it is happiness. Dislike means getting rid of it, not having it is happiness. Both are related to happiness only. Like means having it is happiness. Dislike means not having it is happiness. Isn't it? Both these likes and dislikes have a consequence. The consequence is captivity. The likes and dislikes likes and dislikes just don't exist as a mere like or a dislike. It has its own consequence, and that consequence is captivity. What is the consequence? The consequence is a self-inflicted sorrow and suffering. Second, attachment and possessiveness. The second facet of the mind is attachment and possessiveness. We're not going to delve deep into this because the whole of next chapter is only that. So when we go there, we will see it in elaboration. So we will reserve that for a while. Happiness will come only when it is mine. That's why it's called attachment and possessiveness. Happiness will come only when it is mine. When I am the owner, then only happiness comes. What is possessiveness? I should be the one and only owner. First is I should be the owner. Second is sharing and all. Sharing and all is not allowed. So attachment is I should be the owner. Possessiveness is I should be the one and only owner. That's where the sense of ownership, and the sense of ownership is maximum in relation to the children. It's a corollary there. So attachment is ownership. Possessiveness is that exclusive ownership. Exclusive ownership means it should be mine, and it should be only mine, and nobody should even glance at it. Nobody should even glance at it. Nobody should even look at it, isn't it? Because of the fear of exclusivity, you know that no. Why they are called lovers, we don't know, but the world call them as lovers, isn't it? When they fall in love, they spy on each other. You know that? Lovers constantly spy on each other. Why do they do that? Why do they do that? Why do they constantly spy? A fear. What is the fear? That exclusivity may go. Making sure that the attention doesn't go anywhere else. That's all. Exclusivity means what? I have to make sure that the attention doesn't go anywhere else. So in order to make sure the attention doesn't go anywhere else, what all I have to do? I'll do. If I have to buy a gift, I'll buy a gift. If I have to cry, I will cry. If I have to fall at the feet, I will fall at the feet. If I have to build a Taj Mahal also, I'll be ready to build a Taj Mahal. But one thing is what? One thing is, what is captivity here? Please keep paying attention to me all the time. Keep paying attention to me all the time. And when there is nobody to pay attention, loneliness comes. So I'm feeling very lonely, sir. What do you mean very lonely? There are so many people loving you. No. There are so many friends. There are so many people loving you. But I'm feeling very lonely. Loneliness means what? Huh? Aparna, loneliness means that one particular person is not paying attention. You know that? Whenever you say I'm feeling lonely, it's not that you are not lonely. Where are you lonely? Isn't it? You are not lonely. But then there is why do you feel lonely? What is that? That one particular person, attention is not there. This is what possessiveness. This is what possessiveness is. So in order to get that possessiveness, a person will do anything, and more the effort they make, the other gets suffocated. More the effort to keep the exclusivity alive, the other gets suffocated. And in that suffocation, they will say, you go your way, I go my way. That's where heartbreak will happen, and cheating, sir, this fellow has cheated, this happened, that happened. Now, and when you feel cheated, you should take. When you feel cheated, you should take. What you should do when you feel cheated? What will be the natural consequence of when you feel cheated? You cannot go to temple and say, may that person be happy. No. When somebody has cheated you, or there's nobody that is cheating you, you are cheated by all are self-inflicted. You are cheated by yourself. But assuming that, okay, this person has cheated you, what is the natural consequence of cheating? Revenge. Revenge becomes the consequence. That's where you find those who write letters of love are those who throw dirt at each other. Isn't it? Same to human beings. You should see their love letter and you should see their divorce papers. Those throw where they share love is the ones they throw dirt on each other. Why? What happened? Possessiveness. Deadly is this possessiveness. And the most easiest and vulnerable is the children. Because in the first stages of life, from the age of 12, 13, 15, they are so extremely dependent. So what does the parent to do? They make full use of this opportunity. What is making full use of this opportunity? Turn them into a toy. Suffocate them, strangle. If all this a person can overcome, because all this can give pain. Likes and dislikes can give pain. Attachment and possessiveness can give pain. So, chances of you getting out of it is, even though it is faint, you can still get out. But what is almost impossible to get out? That fanaticism to religion. Again, I repeat, likes and dislikes causes pain and suffering. The very pain and suffering that likes and dislikes cause, you can get out of it. Attachment and possessiveness causes suffering. And the very suffering that attachment and possessiveness causes helps you to, there is a hope, there is a faint possibility. Where it is deadly is religion, isn't it? Where it is deadly is religion. It was so funny. I don't know how many of you read that news. It was in the newspaper 3 days back. 3 days back, 4 days back. In the family wedding, somewhere in Kerala, in the family wedding, massacre and the marriage stopped. Why? Because the papad wasn't kept according to the tradition. Papad wasn't kept according to the tradition. So one fellow called and said, why did you keep like this? Another fellow called and said, no, this is how it will be kept. In 1 hour's time, what happened? Marriage got, whether to laugh at it or I don't know. Did anybody see this news in the newspaper? It was there 3 days back, 4 days back, it was there. Couldn't control the fanatic attachment to what goes what. Whether pickle comes first or papad comes first, what difference does it? What difference does it make? No. In our family, this is how it will be done. No. In our family, this is how it will be done. Anyway, both the families are useless families only. What difference does it make? What comes first? What comes second? Fanatic attachment to religion is much more difficult to get out than this. All this we saw. Religion at one level is a set of values, rituals. At one level, it is a set of rituals and values meant for inner purification. Religion has 2 stages. Jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Verse number 3, chapter 3. Religion has two stages. One stage is the values, the rituals, etc. All that is meant for inner purification, self-purification. Once there is a self-purification, inner purification, there is that self-purification means an inner maturity. Self-purification implies an inner maturity. Self-purification implies a deep penetrative capacity. That's what self-purification implies. In that deep penetrative capacity, in that maturity, the reality of life will be understood. What is the reality of life? It's Maya, it's Mithya. What you think you are is not what you are. You think you are this personality, you think you are this individual, you think you are this jiva. Philosophy, the knowledge says what you think you are is not what you are. So religion is what? Step number 1, to bring about an inner purification, maturity, a penetrative capacity. Step number 2, understand the truths of life. What is the truth of life? It's Maya. What you see is not what it is. All this, whatever be it, we're not getting into that. Instead of these, so what happens is very difficult for anybody to get fanatically attached to the second part. The Maya part, Mithya part and all, nobody can get fanatically attached. Because you won't even You won't even understand anything. There's no utility in all these things. In fact, all this looks so weird and absurd. So, which part of religion there will be a fanatic attachment to? Certain practices that is recommended for purification is what you will get, is what the mind gets fanatically attached to. Second is attachment to the deity, religious attachment. One is attachment to the practices. Second is attachment to a deity. In this attachment, what is missed? The purpose of religion is lost. And here, if we are concerned about the problem of likes and dislikes and attachment and possessiveness, more deeply concerning is the religious attachment. Why? We have seen this any number of times. In all other attachments, there is a pain, there is a suffering, there is a guilt. In religious fanaticism attachment, there will not be any pain, there will not be any guilt at all. The worst crime could be committed in the name of God, and that person will not feel guilty at all. Therefore, this religious attachment is deadly. You cannot get rid of the initial practices. You cannot get rid of the ritualistic portions. When we say ritualistic portion means, don't take it as the actual rituals. What all do's and don'ts prescriptions are given for self-purification, in a very loose way, they are called ritualistic practices. Distinct and different from that is the philosophy. So, he says, because of this, what happens? Because of not understanding these are all meant for purification purposes, they are not absolute truths in itself. When you take the ritualistic practices itself as an absolute truths, attachment comes. If individual slaughtering happens because of possessiveness and family things and all that, large scale slaughter happens in the name of religion. Large scale slaughtering happens in the name of religion. And the one who's doing it will not feel any guilt at all. And this is there time immemorial in all parts of the world. In all parts of the world, including India, it will be there. So you got to be very careful in using it as a purification tool, but not to get fanatically attached to. With this, we understand what is known as born in captivity. The last thing, rise above captivity, is still there. We'll study that and then we'll move on to the next one. Rise above captivity.
Rise above captivity. Humans alone can get out of their captivity, be it by birth, home, environment, masses, or the mind. No other creature enjoys this privilege. The lives of all other beings held as captives are dictated by the external world. Only the human race is privileged to step out of their captivity and establish each one's identity by the use of the intellect. However, the human intellect is not just limited to gaining emancipation from mundane constraints and restraints in life. The subtle intellect can rise above all terrestrial limitation and reach the transcendental, attain spiritual enlightenment.
So what he's saying here is a summary of the topic. Birth, home, environment, masses, herd instinct, the mind. So these are all the various facets of captivity and rise above this captivity. And in order to rise above this captivity, the subtle intellect can rise above all terrestrial limitation and reach the transcendental. By using the subtle intellect, you rise above the captivity. One level is managing it, another level is transcending it. In Vedanta, we don't restrict to managing it. In Vedanta, we are concerned about transcending it. One is managing the disease, another is eradicating the disease. It's like this. One is management of the disease. Management of the disease means, managing means what? Not eradicating. Managing means it will be there, but you can continue to do whatever you are doing more or less. That's called managing, isn't it? You are in sorrow, but you can manage your sorrow. Manage your sorrow means what? There is a death in the family. The closest person to you is dead. You can manage that sorrow, no? You can wake up with that sorrow, light the stove with that sorrow, boil the milk with that sorrow, make a coffee with that sorrow, and drink coffee with that sorrow, isn't it? This is called managing sorrow. It means it is there in the background, but more or less you are trying to move on. If the sorrow makes you incapacitated, that is called depression, isn't it? If it makes you incapacitated, you are in a depressed state. You have got into a cocoon, isn't it? So one is it can make you incapacitated. Another is everything is happening, but you will. I have seen people, as they are crying and talking about the person who had passed away, they will reach out for a little bit of sugar and mix it in the coffee also. They do both. As they are, and they are genuine, they are not faking it, please. Please don't understand it as fake and all. This is managing. This is called managing. Are you able to follow? Srikanth, this is called managing. It's not faking. This is called managing. Because just because you are in sorrow and crying and all, how can you have coffee without sugar? Isn't it? So this is called managing. Another is what? We are not concerned with managing. We are concerned with transcending. So gross intellect will more or less try to manage. It is the subtle intellect that comes and says, get rid of it once and for all. Eradicate it. Gross intellect will talk about managing it. And all of us are interested in managing it. Very few are interested in transcending it. Are you able to understand the difference now? Yeah. Are you able to understand the difference? So one person says, manage. Another person says transcend. And why we don't, even though managing it is very important, we really don't pay attention to management. Why? Why? Because you manage one and handle one, the seed for the opposite is sown already. So how much ever you manage, what is there? Time bomb ticking, the seed for the opposite. That is why this wise fellow says, no, don't stop with managing and all. Try and transcend it. So in order to transcend, what is important? Subtle intellect comes into play. We'll discuss all that. Subtle intellect comes into play. What is the difference between gross intellect and subtle intellect? I'm not asking for the technical definition, because technical definition, if I ask, Shankaracharya will be ashamed at us. Because the way that we can give the technical definition, he will be ashamed. And group discussion, he will not even want to talk philosophy after that. Isn't it? He comes for our group discussion and all, he will not even want to talk philosophy after that. He will want to become a materialistic person. Isn't it? He will feel like that. So I am talking about, in a very common sense way, what is the difference between gross intellect and subtle intellect? I'll give you a hint to think. I'll give you a hint. What is the difference between gross intellect and subtle intellect? Subtle intellect will say, success is the greatest failure. Again, if you didn't hear me rightly, I have to say it again. Yeah. Subtle intellect will say, success is not an achievement. Success is the greatest failure. Why? Because in success, you think you are on peak, and then when you fall from the ground and when you fall from the mountain top, where do you get being? When does your bones get broken up completely? You can trip and fall on the ground. Another thing is you can fall from the hill. So subtle intellect, what all the mind and all that says, subtle intellect will say exactly the opposite. Example, success is the greatest failure. If you really want to fail, become successful. But this is not what is taught till now, no? Isn't it? Suddenly so many eyes opened up, isn't it? Suddenly what is he saying? Otherwise it's like a lullaby, isn't it? Otherwise it's like a lullaby. Mind is this, intellect is this, Maya this. So it's a lullaby which will be, because we know what is going to come next to know. See, when does something become lullaby? You know what is going to come next. You will fall off to sleep, isn't it? Final enough, every 15-20 minutes, you have to say something to break the lullaby. So, if the session is divided into 15 minutes of 4 sessions each, 4 confusions has to be told, minimum, isn't it? Then only something will. So, what is the subtle intellect? Success is the greatest failure because the ego gratification, the recognition, the ego gratification, the recognition, all that comes with it It's a package. Success doesn't come just as a success. Success comes with the package of the opposite. What is the opposite? You understand this, you will not want to be successful. Whatever you do, you want to do it sincerely and get out. That's all. With success or failure, you will not be bothered. Why? Because you know. What do you know? Success is the greatest failure. Greatest failure, because nothing can be ego gratifying. Ego gratification is maximum in success. Because the ego is gratified, recognition happens, and then you'll be in the front page of all the magazines, and everybody will want to take your, and whatever you say is what matters for everybody, isn't it? And what an ego gratification it is. Okay, as you have struggled and reached there are so many other people still struggling, no? And for the next one who is struggling, you have given him a method also. So what happens? That fellow who is becoming successful will be slightly better than you only. You know that? Have you ever observed it? You do something and you become successful, and you have given something to the next fellow. So the next fellow will become slightly better than you. It means what happens? In a split second, the entire recognition will go there. The entire recognition will go there. The entire attention will go there. And everybody will wanting that. And what happens to this person? The fall. The fall. So what subtle intellect says? Do what you got to do with sincerity and dedication, and that's it. Leave it at that. You are on a stable ground. Isn't it? Another thing, subtle intellect. There are various ways to become insane. You can become insane in many ways. There are various ways for a person to become insane. And the easiest way to become insane is what? Turn into a perfectionist. That's all. The moment you turn into a perfectionist, that's it. You will be, that's it. Why? Because each and everything will look like anything that happens will be wrong only after that. Isn't it? Each and everything will be wrong. So, I'm a perfectionist, sir. Very good. See you soon, isn't it? You say, see you soon. I don't know where, but whatever. You follow? So, gross intellect, I'm just giving some examples for you to understand the distinction in a more practical way than the technical way, because all the technical definition of gross subtle intellect and all we are going to see much later. But here as a something for reflection, something for you to reflect, something for you to practically use and strengthen the intellect, we are giving some indicators. What is it? Success at the end of the day makes you feel empty-handed. Makes you feel empty-handed because all that will become so meaningless at all this will become meaningless at one point of time. For that meaningless thing, you stopped doing all the meaningful things. Chasing this meaningless entity, you stopped the meaningful thing. That's where it's vain. That's where it's called vain. Of vain hopes, of vain actions, all that we saw there, no? Why? Because it makes you so empty-handed. What is the empty-handed? The empty-handedness is because it appears so meaningless. For chasing that meaningless thing, you stopped doing the meaningful. For example, if we say a person has no time to attend to the health and gotten chasing the well, has no time for the health, what happens? Two things will be lost. What are the two things? The wealth is also lost, health is also lost, isn't it? Lying down in that ICU or ICCU, whatever it is nowadays, isn't it? Lying there with all the tubes and the machines and all that. Mind will reflect. It will look back. And when it looks back, it understands what a foolish thing that I gotten into. This is where Vedanta says, fools learn through their own experience, wise learn through others. But we will go see a person in ICU, sympathize with that person, and as we come out, tell the doctor, what? Keep the bed ready. I'm coming very soon. We go, visit the ICU patient, sympathize, offer flowers. In some culture, they give flowers and all. Here, we don't give flowers. No, what we will give? What we will give here? Some temple prasad we will give. No, we'll take some vibhuti, some kumkum, and the doctor will say, all this is unclean. All this is, it has full of, all this is dirt. You can't bring dirt into the ICU. You say, no, this is not dirt. This is prasad from Lord Kapalishwara. Allah, who has touched it? Who has not touched it? Whether it's unhygienic. We don't allow all this in ICU. You don't know. And then what do? You have to leave it at the door. I don't know. Where do you put that and come? As you do all that, you come out and tell one thing to the doctor. What? Don't worry. One more patient is there. One more person will come like this. And who's that person? Who's that person? Srikanth. Kannadi munadi ninna, you know who that person is. If you stand in front of the mirror, you will know who that person is. Subtle intellect is not about managing, it's about transcending so that you don't go through it. You don't go through it again and again and again. Therefore, he concluded by saying, this is the subtle intellect thing. So, understand it in a very, in a way where you get material for reflection. All this analysis is done by not managing, but transcending. So the subtle intellect says transcend, gross intellect says manage. Mind will say, even if you are depressed, I will not let go of it. How much ever I get beaten up, I will not let go of it, is the mind. Understand it like that. Mind means it will get beaten up, but it will not let go. How do you understand this? Remember that story. Monkey in the Kamandalu, isn't it? Monkey in the Kamandalu. A person went to meditate in the Tiruvannamalai hills. Full of monkeys there. You know that, no? Full of monkeys. Human beings are also there. Lot of monkeys are also there. So the fellow goes there and starts meditating. Monkeys come and disturb the meditation. Because they'll come and because they'll want to come and scratch, they will want to come and explore. That's what monkey does, isn't it? Something is kept, it will come round and round, and then it will touch it and run away quickly to see how you are reacting. So this fellow is trying to meditate, sitting still. Monkey is coming and disturbing him. So he went to the senior monk, and the senior monk advises what to do. No peace of mind in house, and I came to Tiruvannamalai to meditate. Even here, monkeys are taking away the peace of mind. What do I do now? So the senior monk said, don't worry. In the Kamandalu, they call, where what they used to carry? Okay, water bottle. A water bottle, that's all it is. Maybe an apple water bottle, isn't it? It could be an apple water bottle also. But it is it's a water bottle. And what is the difference between ordinary water bottle and apple water bottle? Apple water bottle will talk, I think. Every 45 minutes, it will talk to you, saying, drink water. Drink water. Because you forget to drink water. So apple water bottle. Wow. After that, another apple machine will come, and then will say, you have stopped breathing. Start breathing. I don't know what all we need. I don't know what all we need machines for, isn't it? So, what to do now? The senior monk said, put a lot of groundnuts and wait. Put a lot of groundnuts and wait. The monkey will come, and it will try to grab the nuts. And how much ever it try to grab the nuts, it cannot. Why? The design of it is in such a way, only an empty hand can go in, and an empty hand only can come out. The neck is designed in such a way, an empty hand can go in, an empty hand can come out. But the monkey will go in with the empty hand, and what it will want to come out with? It will want to come out with a fistful of nuts. And it will keep trying and trying and trying. Keep a stick next to you and start whacking that monkey, he says. Start whacking that monkey. Monkey will scream, monkey will cry, but one thing the monkey will not do. What? One thing the monkey will not do. What it will not do? Let go of the nuts and run away. This is the mind. It will scream, it will cry, it will complain. What to do? What to do? What to do? Don't start saying what to do. They are not interested in knowing what to do and all. Clear? What to do? What to do? What you should do? Just to stay quiet. Why? Because they are not in. Because it's like it's the monkey that is getting whacked, crying and asking what to do, and you tell the monkey let go of it. It will not listen. Okay. What is gross intellect? Let me be smart and take a few nuts and escape. That is gross intellect. Yeah. Let me take a few nuts. Doesn't matter how not even a single nut can be taken out. Subtle intellect says, drop it and you drop it. The moment you drop it, you are free from the beatings. The dropping is called transcending. So it is about the cause for captivity, managing the captivity, and transcending the captivity. So at times when we talk about managing the captivity, we will say, don't stop with this, because there are certain times, there are certain situations where help is needed to manage it. Because it is so overwhelming, It is so overpowering that some ideas, some things has to be told to manage it. Next time what they will do, you give a person a method, a solution. Next time what will they do? Exactly the same problem they will create and come and ask what to do. Now you can't tell them the previous thing because they have created the same problem again. Therefore, transcending is the only solution. Managing is a temporary solution. This is what we need to understand. Managing is a temporary solution. Transcending is a permanent solution. Series of temporary solutions put together, can it become a permanent solution? You cannot. Why? Why it is not possible? Because in whatsoever you create, you have created the whatsoever you have created, invariably you have created the opposite. Why? Because the subtle intellect understands this law of life. What is the law of life? Life is a synthesis of opposites. Anything happens in all that happens in life happens only because it has the support of the opposite. Remember this. Again, I repeat, life is a synthesis of opposites. Anything happens in life is happening because without because the opposite is supporting it. The heat is supported by the cold and the cold is supported by the heat. You cannot do anything here without simultaneously creating the opposite. Therefore, managing is not a solution at all. Even though it keeps you temporarily all right. Even though it keeps you temporarily all right. So again, I repeat, what is the law? Life is a synthesis of opposites. All that happens in life happens with the support of the opposite. This is where the subtle intellect comes into play. That's where it comes into play, into understanding all these factors. You cannot do anything here without creating the opposite. The very fact that you build a house, in that building the house, what is created? When you are building the house, what is created along with the building, the house? Destruction of the building also. The collapse of the building also. The collapse may happen at the first year, the collapse may happen at the 50th year, the collapse may happen at the 100th year, or the government may keep bombs and collapse, isn't it? But nevertheless, the moment you do something, you have created the opposite. Can you do anything without creating the opposite? No. Therefore, as long as you are in the world, you will be in captivity, moving from one to the other, to the other, to the other. Ultimately, you will never be free. So born in captivity is talking about the ultimate freedom. Ultimate freedom as in permanent freedom. Another law. Desire is an illusion that something will bring happiness. Another law. Like this, I have so many laws, sir. Sir, why don't you just put everything in one slide and show it to all of us? We'll become free. Isn't it? At least freedom from the classes we will get. Week after week after week, we have to come and wait for that one thing that you are supposed to. What is that? See, desire is an illusion. What is that illusion? That something will bring happiness. That's the captivity. This illusion is, what is the captivity here? The illusion is the captivity. Hell belongs to those who live in this illusion. Even if you put that person in heaven also, that person will live in hell. John Milton quote, mind in its own place makes a hell out of a heaven or a heaven out of a hell. Because the mind that is doing this, hell belongs to this person who is caught up in this illusion. So when it gets too much, you apply some balm and manage yourself temporarily only to get back into it again. Okay, another. The education system, empty promises they make. Education system, empty promises. What is the empty promises? Pleasure, happiness, success, joy, all the good things of life will come out of this. And then what the person understands, nothing has come out of it. Nothing has come. In fact, something has come out of it. What has come out? More misery, more pain, more worry. That's all. The person is agitated, crying, sitting in a hut. Now the person is agitated, crying, sitting in a villa. That's all. That's the only empty promise that education makes. Education says, from hut, I will take you to the villa. Education system says, from the hut, I will take you to the villa. If you are walking, I will give you a motorcycle. If you are going by motorcycle, I'll give you a car. If you are going by car, I will give you private aircraft, whatever it is. Empty promises it makes. Sheer empty promises. In Kathopanishad, he calls it as Shreyaha and Preyaha. That which gives Shreyas and that which gives Priyam. That which is Priyam is deadly, dangerous. That which gives Shreyas is distinct and different. So here, what are we talking about? What difference does it make when you are agitated, whether you are living in a hut or the villa? The only comparison is what? Okay. While you are sitting and suffering in the hut, I am sitting and suffering in the villa. While you are sitting and suffering in a 2-bedroom apartment, I will be sitting and suffering in a 4-bedroom apartment. The empty promise. What is the empty promise? The empty promise is the immediate pleasure will be the permanent pleasure. Remember this. Captivity, we should understand. The immediate pleasure will be the permanent pleasure. Vedanta comes and says the immediate pleasure is, in that immediate pleasure, the opposite is created. In that immediate pleasure, the opposite is created. This is captivity. Now, where is all this? All that we were discussing, where is all this? It's in you. It's in every individual sitting separately. So if you want freedom, you got to deal within, you got to deal with this within yourself. Where is all this sitting? It's not sitting in the outside world, where I can go and manipulate and do something and change it. It's all sitting inside. Therefore, captivity says it is self-inflicted internal captivity. This is called born in captivity. Next lesson that we are going to continue from next week is the source of the disease. What is the source? The virus of, I think that is the next topic. The next chapter, sorry, not the next topic, the next chapter. Virus of attachment. The subtle intellect can rise above all terrestrial limitation and reach the transcendental, attain spiritual enlightenment. With this, we finish chapter 2, born in captivity. And then we will move on to the next chapter, the virus of attachment. Do we have anything?
Yes, Mala has posted a question.
You said the world is full of opposites and it is the nature. Problem is only in our mind that does not see the world as it is, but sees the way it wants to be. Is the way I see influenced by my karma vasana and likes and dislikes? Example, if I cannot tolerate cold and born in Iceland, do the opposites always match perfectly in the world? 2-3 questions she is asking, we'll break it up. Yeah. First question. The world is full of opposites. The way that I see it, is it influenced by one's own likes and dislikes? Karma, vasana? Answer is yes. Your vasana, your likes and dislikes makes you to see it in a way which is unique only to you. When Laila was brought to the court, the father asked Majnu, where is Laila? Laila was brought to the court by Majnu, and father asked, where is Laila? Because they were body shaming Laila, I think, wasn't it? I think they were body shaming her. So they were asking, where is Laila? Majnu said, this is Laila. Oh. Laila, why can't you find somebody else? Majnu said, if you have to see the beauty of Laila, look at her through Majnu's eyes. So Laila looks beautiful only if seen through the eyes of Majnu. Same Laila will look ugly, full of hatred, if seen through somebody else's eyes. Now, is Laila responsible for the love or for the hatred? Is Laila responsible? Majnu is ready to do anything to be with Laila. Father is ready to do anything to get rid of Laila. Now, is Laila responsible for both? What is the answer? Laila simply exists. That's all. Laila exists. But the way you see it is dependent upon, the way that you see it is dependent upon your likes and, the way that you see it is dependent upon your likes and dislikes. This is answering the first one. Second question. If I cannot tolerate cold and born in Iceland, you cannot tolerate cold if you are born in Chennai, isn't it? That's why in Chennai winter, where there is no winter at all, isn't it? What is the Chennai winter? Chennai winter is 22, isn't it? 22, 24 is Chennai winter, isn't it? Monkey caps will be out, sweaters will be out, isn't it? So you go to the Iceland, you go to these people there, they roll on the, they roll on the ice. Mala. Do the opposites always match perfectly in the world? Opposites coexist. In that coexistence, you can say they are matching perfectly. Are you able to follow? Opposites coexist. Because of them coexisting, you can say they are matching perfectly well. Because success is going to go with failure. They match so perfectly, isn't it? Success will not go with another success. Success, the opposite of success being failure, they both match very perfectly. Birth and death match very perfectly, no? Birth and death matches perfectly. Therefore, do the opposites always match perfectly in the world? They coexist. In that coexistence, you can say they are perfectly matching. So we will not use the word perfectly matching. We will use the word opposites coexist and learn to see the opposites coexisting. Problem comes when you want one opposite and you don't want the other. Where does problem come? They coexist. In that coexistence, you will want one and not want the other. Birth you want, death you don't want. Success you want, failure you don't want. Honor you will want, dishonor you will not want. But then in honor lies dishonor. In success lies failure. Therefore, opposites coexisting is not a problem. Remember this. World being the pairs of opposites is not the cause for problem. The cause for problem is mind dividing the opposites into two and say, one I want permanently, the other I don't want permanently. One I want it always, the other I never want. Isn't it? Youth goes with old age, no? Isn't it? Both are. So everything, that's why I said it as a law. Yes, Mala, chalungo.
Sir, in the world and the opposites, just one question. In this Kali Yuga, we say that our Shastra says. In that sense, will the opposite, the scale, will it get tilted in certain yugas?
Okay. What she is referring to, there is the 4 yugas. The Satya Yuga is the utopian society, dreamland that is, fantasy it is. That never that never exists. Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga is the hope, utopian it is. What is Satya Yuga? Only joy, no sorrow. Only joy, no sorrow. That's Satya Yuga. Everybody will be successful and nobody will face failure. Can a world exist like that? It cannot exist like that. So in reality, what is that? The proportion differs. And the proportion of agitation is more, sorrow and suffering is more, Kali Yuga. In the proportion of sorrow and suffering is less, you can call it as Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga. So it is the proportion that differs, not black and white. It's not black and white. So Satya Yuga, it's a fantasy land where rains will come, there will not be a drought at all. Rains come continuously for 5th year, earth will stop yielding vegetation. Therefore, if 4 years of rain comes, 2 years of drought is also necessary. So in Satya Yuga is a fantasy land. What is the real Yuga? The proportion of, is the proportion of agitations less or the proportion of agitations more? It's a question of proportion less or more. It's not a question of one and not the other. It's not that. It's a proportion. Both will be there. It is less or more. So at any Yuga, Mala, so you don't have to feel bad. Nambalam Kali Yuga Martin Tomen, you need not feel bad. Because her question is what? Sir, we all got caught up in the wrong time. No, Kali Yuga, we all got caught up. So what is the hope that shall we live in Satya Yuga and all that? For which the answer is Satya Yuga and all. Satya Yuga can happen right now if it is rightly understood. Satya Yuga can happen even now if rightly understood. Even in Satya Yuga, it can look like Kali Yuga to you. A Satya Yuga can look like a Kali Yuga to you. A Kali Yuga can look like a Satya Yuga. So it all depends upon not the Yuga. It all depends upon how wise or how ignorant you are. The wiser you become, Satya Yuga it is. The ignorant you remain, not more, because we can't get more ignorant than this. So we say, so we remain in ignorance. It is Kali Yuga. Is it okay, Mala? Yeah. With this, we conclude for today, and we continue with the 3rd chapter, the virus of attachment.